Debbie's third step. And then he talks about this idea of God. Here's some of the language. This is on page 12. Creative intelligence, universal mind, spirit of nature, czar of the heavens. He's using all these different terms. These are all pronouns for God. When I go through the book, I have the people I work with highlight or circle all the pronouns. Every one of these means something different. Universal energy of the spirit, right? But he talks about going through this, and he says, why don't you choose your own conception? And I know this may be heresy to some people that are very, conservative on religious or spiritual ideas. But it's a starting point for people that aren't. You look at the priest, the atheist, the believer, and they're all drunk, right? I know, and I've said this when I do meet agnostics with guys in my living room. If God was right in front of all of us, right now, with all His majesty, and we believe with all the certainty in the world, right? Wouldn't I still have trouble with my old lady? Wouldn't I still have trouble with my boss? Wouldn't I still have trouble with traffic? Wouldn't I still have trouble with Washington? See, the idea and the belief is not enough. He said, faith without works is dead. This part of this process is going to be about doing some of the work. The work that is required for me to clear away the things in me, again, that are blocking me from the proper use of the will. If that makes any sense. So I just want to go through Bill's relationship with the steps with Evie, and then we're going to go right into the work really fast because we only got a couple sections left. So he talks about this, like I said last night. He talks about having this powerful white light experience, and then it says the sense of his presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, most of which were within myself. Anybody heard of Sam Shoemaker? Sam Shoemaker writes this incredible poem. You can look it up later. It's called I Stand at the Door. Yeah. And the basic fundamental idea of it is he stands at this door because people all over the world are looking for this door. In cold cities, in the middle of winters, they're searching for this door. And he stands at the door, and he's careful not to go too far in, because if he goes too far in the door, he gets consumed with what's inside this door, right? So he stands at the door. He doesn't go too far out because he loses touch with what's there. And then he reveals in the poem that it's the door to God, right? And he says that it's only their hand that can open the door. So he stands there and puts their hand on the latch. That's why when people say, my God's a doorknob, and we all roll our eyes, there's a different way to look at that. And that's part of what it means to be in sponsorship and in recovery, is I'm standing at the door metaphorically to show another person what I found. So Evie brought this to Bill, and he talks about it. He says, at the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, right? And here's his third step, okay? And you'll hear it. It's just the same as our third step. I offered myself to God as I then understood Him. It doesn't say defined Him, okay? I'm going to understand a relationship with God. God will steer, but God won't row. He is the director, I'm the actor, He's the principal, I'm the agent, He's the father, I'm the child. It's asking me to look at God for three things: direction, wisdom, and power. If you want a Mercedes, get a job, right? It's like, I tell my friends, don't pray for women, God's not a pimp, right? No offense, but again, if you get in a closet and pray for food, right, you'll die. You got to go get it. I have to do the footwork. God will steer, God won't row. So this idea, okay, he humbly offered himself. I would place myself reservedly under his care and direction. There's the word direction, right? I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing. In other words, in this area. And we talk about willpower. You want to see willpower? You want to see drama? Get between an alcoholic and a drink. Get between a dope. Imagine how creative we are on Sundays when we want to get high. Banks are closed. I mean, there's no such thing as a closed bank anymore. But like, I will figure out a way to pull money out of the air to get high, right? And no disrespect, if I had naked women and free dope at my house, people would be stealing cars to get there. But when it comes to coming to work a little steps, the only thing we do in moderation is the steps, right? We say you want to hide something for an alcoholic, put it in the big book. I'll never find it. I mean, this stuff's stupid, but it's true. The motivation I had to get loaded. I have to understand that willpower that I use to get loaded, it has to move into going to meetings, working steps, helping others, and not letting up. He's going to say it in the 10th and 11th step. I cannot let up on the spiritual program of action. If you're new, it's a death sentence. If my career and my relationship are not compatible with my recovery. My sponsor said, you can have a job, you can have a relationship, and you can have recovery. Now, if you got recovery and a job and no relationship, you won't be all right. If you got a relationship and recovery and no job, you'll still get by. She might leave you, right? But you'll be okay. But if I don't have recovery, I don't have the other two. So there's no such thing as balance here. I have to put my recovery first. Without my recovery, I don't have the other two. And you see it working with people. Like, I tell people, I can get into, you'll really learn the doctor's opinion. You know why? Because when you take a guy through the doctor's opinion, by the time you get to Bill's story, he's going to be in love with somebody. By the time you look at there's a solution, he's got a career. And by the time he gets some more about alcoholism, he don't need AA. You see it over and over again. The shower I took yesterday won't keep me clean today. I can't stay sober on yesterday's program. You unplug a refrigerator, everything goes bad. It doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks old or 30 years old. If I unplug from the circle and the triangle, look at that as a power socket. Recovery, unity, and service. Mind, body, and spirit. Contribute, belong, and learn. Right? Wisdom, power, and love. That's what it is. Those three things. This is Trinity. Mind, body, spirit. Just like the disease. So this is his third step. We're going to go through this quick because I want to get to the other part. I ruthlessly faced my sins. The word sin is actually an archery term. It means to miss the mark. It's an ideal. Okay? There's erasers on pencils for a reason. Everybody makes mistakes. Forgive yourself. Move on. Take the rearview mirror off the car, throw it out the window. If we could just do that, none of us would need therapy. I hate to say it. If I could just take that rearview mirror off the car, all my stuff, I got free of it. The molestation, the abandonment, the abuse. Once I was able to do that, and then look at it again in inventory with a sponsor, I started to get freedom. For me, that some people want to dwell in it for 30 years, go ahead. But we're going to address that in a second. So he does this. He says, he placed himself under care and direction. I admitted for the first time I was nothing. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend. Anytime you see a pronoun capitalized, it means God. Okay, take them away, root and branch. I have not had a drink since. And that was December 11, 1934. You might want to put that date. That was Bill's sobriety date. Okay? So then he said, my schoolmate, Ebby, visited him. I fully acquainted him with my problems and deficiencies. That's step 6 and 7. Things I do that cause me shame. 7 is not doing things that open the door to freedom. There's two ways of looking at it. They're not the same thing. In the spiritual community, they talk about sins of commission and sins of omission. They're different for a reason. I'll take you backwards through it. If I'm stuck in step 9, the problem's never in step 9. It's either that I didn't make the list in step 8, or more importantly, I never became willing. Why would that be? Because the problem's not in 8, it's in 7. And here it is. I'm too selfish to make the amends. I'm too resentful to make the amends. I'm too dishonest. I can't admit what I did wrong was wrong. Or I'm too afraid. I don't want them to know what I did, right? Let's put it this way. Use the 7 deadly sins. I'm too proud to make the amends. I'm too angry to make the amends. I'm too greedy to make the amends. Right? I'm too slothful to get on the plane and buy the ticket and knock on the door. Right? That's what amends sounds like. Okay? So if the problem's in 7, it's actually in 6. It's a defect. It's something blocking me. So follow me. If the problem's in 6, it's never in 6. It's in 5. That I never really admitted to God, to myself, and another human being, which is admission, acknowledgement, and acceptance of these huge chunks of truth about myself. I never discovered the obstacles in my path, right? Which means the problem can't be in 5, it's got to be in 4. And then I never did a fearless and thorough moral, meaning conduct inventory, which means obviously the problem's not in 4, it's got to be in 3. See, a third step without the pen and inventory is fantasy. I never turned my will and my life over and demonstrated that by the action of inventory, meaning the problem's not in 3, it's actually in 2. That I never came to believe in a power other than myself. And why do you think that would be? Because the problem's really in the second half of step 1. Then now that I'm not getting loaded, all I need is a job, a house, a girl, and a car, and I don't need AA no more. So there it is. So he says he visited him, he acquainted him with his 6 and 7, and here's the key to the entire page. If you look at this page 13, you see the word I all the way down the page, because it's Bill's story, but there's a word in the middle. It says we. We made a list of people I had hurt and towards who I felt resentment. That means that Ebby did it with him. There's no one else in that room but Ebby and him. That means the sponsor helped him with the writing. I sit with people. The way we're going to do this in the next session, we're going to go through the inventory. We're going to look at 3 or 4 ideas, and then we're going to get into 10, 11, and 12. But I had to understand that for a lot of us, when you're working with people, you get them started on the 4-step, work with them. Help them. Say, let's make a list. Let's look at the clause. Let's go through 3 or 4 of them, and then let them do the writing, and then come back, and if they can't do it, I'll sit with them. I had to be coached through this. I was so freaking blind to this that had I not had somebody sit with me and walk me through the 3rd and 4th column, I would have never got it. I would have never got it. So that's it, and I'm going to just read the rest of this really quick, and we're going to jump into 3. I was to test my thinking, right? He says he was to write all such matters, and here's his step 10, okay? I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. I was to sit quietly when in doubt. His 11th step, okay? Asking again for what? Strength and direction to meet my problems as you'd have. Never was I to pray for myself unless as my request bore on my usefulness to others, right? So if you want a new, truck, you go and take newcomers a meeting. You better be thinking about that. And if you buy a truck, you're going to help a lot of people move. So, you know what? Let me take your truck to a meeting, right? Hey, bro, tell me, especially with a big group like this. Belief in the power of God, right? 3rd step. Willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things. These are directions. Were essential requirements. Not easy. A price had to be paid. Did you ever notice that AA is the most expensive club in the world? It's $1 million program shoved up your butt a nickel at a time. It's horrible. And what I mean by that is the price of admission is prepaid here. It took my house, it took my job, took my old lady, took my education, took my relationship with my family. It devastated everything, right? You think everything's free here. Don't ever forget the price of admission here. All right? It meant the destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things into the Father of light. Notice capitalized again, because it's a pronoun, God who presides over us all. You'll see that in the long form of the 12th tradition. He who presides over us all. Okay? And there it is. That's the fundamental idea of what this is going to look like. So what I want to do is I want to jump into the 3rd step real quick, and we're going to do that. We have a little bit of time. After we do chapter 5, these are the elements of self-will. And what this is on the bottom of page 60. We were talking about the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. There's a book called The 5 Things I Cannot Change. It's by a guy named David Rico. You can look it up. And he wrote a book on the serenity prayer. Now the serenity prayer goes like this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. there's 5 things. 1, life is sometimes painful. 2, life is not always fair. 3, all people are not loyal all the time. 4, things do not always go as planned. 5, everything changes, right? The more I force my will in those 5 areas, the more emotional pain I'm going to be in. Then, right, the courage to change the things I can. Here's the power. Attitude, right? My attitude, my belief system, and my conduct. And then the wisdom to know the difference. So once I understand this word attitude, you're going to hear it in a couple of minutes if we get to it. It means position. You know, we were talking about Sandy Beach, who was a pilot. Attitude is like altitude. Altitude is height from the ground. Attitude in aeronautics is my point of attack. So it's my positioning to God, right? And I'm starting to understand. It's going to say it in the inventory. I have to look at these things from an entirely different angle. Okay? So he talks about this. The first requirement is any life run on self-will. Now, we're talking about that emotion, the third part of the triangle, right? Can hardly be a success. We are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are well. Just like that ship on the horizon. That ship on the horizon, in order for it to turn its course, even though it's approaching a lighthouse, it has to know certain facts. It has to know its longitude. It has to know its latitude. It has to know its nautical speed. If you use a map, there's 2 things you got to know on a map. Obviously, you got to know where you're going, but there's one other thing you got to know. And if you don't know it, the map won't work. You have to know where you are. So the inventory is going to be based on that idea. Where are the emotional hot spots? Wherever I have hysterics, I have historics. I have a button on my forehead that says push me. It's a severe emotional overreaction to 5 things. Abandonment, rejection, betrayal, disrespect, and authority. The first one, abandonment. Isn't that the relationship one, right? That's why everything I let go of has claw marks all over it, right? Betrayal, I need all her passwords. Disrespect homes, right? Come on, man. More people get killed by disrespect on the highways and in prisons and all of them put together, right? Don't freaking challenge me, bro, right? Rejection, I'm never going to try anything new. And authority, I can't stand being told what to do. Especially by women, right? There it is. I heard this woman in Allen, she said, God put one arm over her shoulder, the other hand over her mouth. Beautiful. Beautiful. I wish she could have heard it, but I started doing it. I'd break up with my old lady 5 times in one day. I never told her. I keep a fucking mouth shut. It works. Because if she ain't happy, I'm having a rotten day. You know, that old story about you get an old lady, you get a little helper in the car, light green, light red. Go with it, man. Go with it. Go with it. Yes, dear. No, dear. You know. That's right, Adam. You love her, you got to do that stuff. So he talks about me being the actor, trying to be the director. This is on the bottom of page 60. This is critical. Okay, he says, I'm trying to arrange the whole show. What's my show? It's my career. It's my relationship. It's my family. If everybody would do as I wish, life would be wonderful, right? It doesn't work like that. Okay, that's like the serenity prayer. Me not understanding the 8 components in that prayer. Okay, if my arrangements, right? My arrangements. I'm trying to arrange life to suit myself. Instead of me trying to fit myself to be a maximum service to God and the people about me, I'm expecting the 405 or the 5 to part like the Red Sea. It's ridiculous. How do I concede here? To be able to pause, to stop the fight. This is what it's going to ask me to do. It said, if only people would do as I wish, right? This is me trying to play God. This show would be great. Everybody, including myself, would be pleased, right? life would be wonderful, and trying to rank these arrangements, me, I'm virtuous. In other words, when I'm getting my way, now remember this, because you're going to write this down in your book. When I'm getting my way, I'm virtuous. I'm kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. But what about when I'm not getting my way? Okay, we talked about King Baby, Harry Tebow, right? His Majesty the baby. When the baby don't get his way, what? On the other hand, when I'm not getting my way, I'm mean, I'm egotistical, I'm selfish, I'm dishonest, right? And then it says, what happens? The show doesn't go up. I begin to think life doesn't treat me right. Okay, now when life don't treat me right, and these are the 4 stages of self-will, what happens? When life don't treat me right, how do I act? Right? Not only do I take my pail and my bucket, and I'm never playing in the sandbox again, right? Because I'm 3, right? But I try to exert myself more. Watch it. Look at that's number 1. First stage of self-will. I try to force it. Right? And I become on the next occasion demanding. And if she gives in or they give in, I'm gracious. But otherwise, the next piece is I'm demanding. Still, this play doesn't suit me. Admitting I'm somewhat at fault, I'm sure that other people are to blame. Now I become the victim, bro. Right? Now I'm the victim. Because I'm not getting my way. This is childishness. Okay? I become angry, indignant, self-pitying. Right? I'm playing the violin for myself now. Right? What is my basic trouble? Am I not even a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Am I not a victim of the delusion? That means a lie that I believe. I believe the lie that I can force. The word rest in this case means force. I can force satisfaction out of my life if I only manage well. This is critical. This is going to happen between here and Fresno. There's going to be a traffic jam. You're going to start slamming your hand on the steering wheel. I got a birthday party at 6. I'm not going to make it. Right? Don't make plans. Plans change. You want to make God laugh? Make plans. How can I demonstrate grace under pressure when I don't get my way? This is where pausing when agitated is going to come in later. Am I able to do that? This is important because if I can do it, what happens is I start to get to a place where I can adjust myself to accommodate a difficult world. When it talks about later on entering the world of the Spirit, which is a beautiful, it means that heaven isn't out there. Heaven isn't when I die. Heaven isn't tomorrow. Heaven is right now. If I'm entering the world of the Spirit, I'm exiting the world of self. And this is about self. Okay? Isn't it evident to the rest of the players that these are the things I want? And don't my actions make each of them want to retaliate, snatching all they can out of the show? Am I not even in my best moments a producer of confusion rather than harmony? My sponsor says it real simple. I'm the actor trying to be the director, and I become the producer of confusion. Simple. So it's given me some really simple ideas here. All right? It talks about these 3 things. I'm just going to do it instead of read it, but we're at the bottom of page 60. It talks about these 4 ideas. It talks about the Florida businessman laying in the sunshine, right, in Florida, complaining about the state of the nation, right? It talks about the minister sighing about the sins of the 20th century, the safecracker, right? All of those characters in this part of the book have one common denominator, and what it is they all have a delusion that if people would change, only then could they be happy. That's the delusion. One of them is the finger pointer, one of them is holier than thou, one is a victim, right? We talked about that. But all of them have this delusion that if my wife would change, my boss would change, the traffic would change, they would not, do the road work on Saturdays or whatever it is. Right? That my life would work. It's a delusion. I have to learn how to navigate through that and not be in a place of emotion with it. So, and this is what it says. It's very interesting. It's giving me now a real description of what the problem is. It says self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our trouble. And it says driven by 100 forms of fear. When we do this inventory in the next session, we're going to look at how to pull that 100 forms of fear out of the resentment inventory with really, really a simple way to do it. 100 forms of self-delusion, all the lies I tell myself, the self-seeking. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate, top of page 62. And then it says, invariably, the word invariably means always, if you're new. Always find that sometime in the past I made decisions based on self that left me in a position to be hurt. The deal was too good to be true. I didn't read the VIN number. I didn't look at the reviews on Yelp, right? Whatever it is, it's my duty and responsibility, whether it's a breach of contract or a first date, to look at what I'm doing and understand I don't get to play victim. Okay? I mean, AA is not about putting out fires. It's about learning not to start them. I have to understand how powerful that statement is. That's not going over very good in the Palisades right now. I live down there.
Good morning, LLT family. We are here, and we got some big news for you.
So it says our troubles we think are our own making. Now that's a message of hope. Because if the troubles are of their making, there's no hope. It's going to ask me to adjust my attitude, my positioning. Okay, watch what happens here. Now here's the warning. This is where it says above everything, alcoholics must be rid of self. Notice the word rid of. You're going to hear it 3 times. It means to remove. It is synonymous with the word remove in steps 6 and 7. Okay? It says we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. That's not some language. We suggest you pull the ripcord, now you've jumped out of the... Come on, man. This is all or nothing for me. Because if I harbor resentment, I'm going to be really angry. I'm going to be hard to live with. I'm going to be a difficult person. This is an opportunity today to make a decision whether I and everyone else is going to become the best version of myself or the worst. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I know what it's like to be that. Angry, closed-minded, difficult, sarcastic person. I don't want to be that. All right, so I have to make that decision. These are the warnings. There's no way of entirely getting rid of, there's the word again, self without his aid. Now notice that word. They say God doesn't give us more than we can handle, right? Is that true? That's not true. If that was true, I wouldn't need God's help. I have to see that. So it says at the bottom of this paragraph, first of all, we had to quit playing God, all right? Next, we decided. There's going to be the word decide comes up a lot of times in this book. The decision to turn away from self. I can't decide not to drink, but I can decide to take these actions. And by taking these actions, I get the grace not to get loaded. That's the way it works. God was going to be our director, and then we just went through that. But what does it say? When we take such a position, these are the 3rd step promises, top of page 63. When I take such a position, all sorts of remarkable things follow. Now, it's giving me some really interesting things. We have a new employer. Okay? I'm asking again for direction, wisdom, and power. Okay? Being all-powerful, he provides what we need if we keep close to him. There's this great story about this hippie and this barber. And the hippie goes into the barber, and he's to get a haircut, right? And he's talking to this barber about God and spirituality and what a great life. The barber says, shut up, man. He goes, how could there be a God with all this famine and plague and war, people killing each other, inflation? And the hippie's like, he just doesn't know what to tell this guy. And he's like brokenhearted. This barber's so mean to him. He walks out after he gets his haircut, he finds another hippie. And he brings the hippie into the barber, and he says to the barber, how can there be people like this walking around in the world with all these great barbers? And the barber says, well, obviously they got to come to me. And see, God's like a southern gentleman. He won't come knocking at your door unless he's invited.
Yeah.
I got to ask. I don't have to believe. I got to ask. I'm not asking anybody. I didn't have to believe in God, but I started to do the footwork.
Yeah.
By doing the footwork, the evidence starts to bring about a new life, a new way of looking at my life. Like a lot of us came here. Like I said, I didn't want to pray to God. I didn't want God to find out where I was. I believed in a punishing God, a condemning God. But when I did the footwork, regardless of what I believed, he started to reveal himself to me. Okay, and that's what it's saying here. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. That's a direction. To perform his work, I have written right next to that the steps. That's the work here. To be rid of the things in me that are blocking me. Now it says, established on this footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs, right? What am I going to get? What am I take? Where's mine? I have a threefold disease, right? Me, myself, and I. More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. There's two kinds of people in this world. There's givers and there's takers. 90% of the world takers. 10% givers. You think it's any different here? Wait till they ask for cleanup. I paid for this. Why do I have to clean up? I paid my admission.
I got something to do.
Bad news. It's the givers that are having all the fun. Am I right?
Exactly.
I'll help you kids tonight. I'm good with it. It says, as we felt new power flow in, we enjoyed peace of mind. We discovered. Discovery is like the word inventory from Greek. We discovered we could face life successfully, man. We became conscious of God's presence. That is a result of taking action, of taking a position. It's not just sitting in church reciting prayers. It's not enough. I can take the actions and I come to believe. I'm never going to stop anybody in the second and third step because they don't believe or they don't know. The proof is the footwork. Here's the pen. Write the inventory. Take the action. Let's see what happens. Okay? We begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter we were reborn. What a powerful thing that is. And then we're going to do the third step prayer together right now. Okay? Let's do it. We know the prayer. God, I offer myself to thee,
To build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those that I will help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life.
may I do thy will always. So, we're going to look at the difficulties with Mr. Brown. Okay, this is the part of the book that we're going to get into on the next session. Now, there's a T-shirt that says Mr. Brown should have got his ass kicked. The reason Mr. Brown is trying to have sex with his wife, and the way he's going to do that, he's like, "Hey, bro, you know your wife's cheating on you all the time, right?" He's telling the wife that he's cheating on her so he can get with her, and he's also trying to get his job. So you're seeing sex, society, and security all in one resentment. Mrs. Jones is not some bag lady. It's the supermodel at the office that'll talk to everybody but you. Right? And I'm not going to tell the joke because it's on tape and you guys are going to let your wife listen to this tape. I'm not going to do it. Come on! Well, the joke is there's a difference between a bitch and a slut. A slut will have sex with everybody. A bitch will have sex with everybody but you. That's Mrs. Jones. That's Mrs. Right? We know Mrs. Jones. Come on. Everybody but you. Might have interrupted or something. Yeah. Dark humor, but true, right? So he's got a resentment against Mrs. Jones. He's using that as an example. Rejection. That's the resentment. Okay? So we're going to look at these. You might want to think about some of the resentments between now and after lunch, and we'll go through it. And I'm going to walk through some of these inventories. What we're going to do on these is I'm going to do 3 of them, like a parent, a spouse, and an employer. We're going to go through, I'll walk through them verbally. You've got the forms here, you can look at them on your phone, and we're going to see how the fears develop from this. From those fears, we'll be able to look at our 5th step inventory, the relationship inventory, the fear inventory, and then the last 30 minutes, the last hour, we're going to go through 10 and 11 and see how this applies. The way 10 It's like if I learn all the features of an automobile, right? Power steering, cruise control, climate control, power roof, right? All those different features on the car, power seats. What 10 and 11 is learning to operate those mechanisms on the track at 100 miles an hour. That's what it is. So now, words like promptly, quickly, immediately, and at once, that can't mean at the end of the day. How quickly can I get back to center? The quicker I get back to spiritual center, the better my life's going to work. This is like an operating system. That's what this is. It's a neurological operating system that's going to show me how to navigate through my life and relax and take it easy and gain effectiveness and understanding. Okay, so that's where we're at. There's the last piece here, and we'll do that when we come back. Are there any questions? We got about 5 minutes. Go ahead.
He talks about the 4 stages of self-will. Exerting myself more, demanding, becoming a victim. What was the 4th?
Let's go back. Yeah, first, I decide to exert myself more. I'm going to push it, bro. I'm going to fucking screw that fucking thing on. I'm getting the vice grip, right? I become more demanding, right? I raise my voice, right? That's how you do it, right? Still the play doesn't suit me. 3rd part, okay? Admitting I'm somewhat at fault. 4th, I'm sure that other people will blame. That's the victim. And the last piece is I become angry, indignant, and then I just did
Self-sacrifice, survival.
So it's just something to look at. It's just kind of, I'm not even aware that I do this. I shut people out. I don't resent you for days. I resent you for decades and your grandkids. I got people like that now. They won't talk to me for 20 years. I'm like, you still hold on to that? And I did a lot of stupid things in my first 5 years. A lot of stupid stuff. With newcomers and shit. And it's embarrassing. Go ahead.
On page 62, the inadvertently, what was the mean? Invariably.
Invariably means always.
Always?
So let's read it with that in there. It says, sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, right? But it says, invariably we found at some time in the past we made a decision based on self that put me in a position to be hurt. Let's say, I knew she was spiritually sick. I got in a relationship with her anyway.
Yeah.
I knew the deal was too good to be true. It was 50% cheaper than all the other cars on Craigslist, and I bought it anyway. Then I found out the VIN numbers didn't line up. Or the guy didn't have the pink, but I bought it anyway because I justified that and I find out he wasn't. And there's a million ways to do that. A decision based on self. Right? I do it out of greed. I do it out of lack of patience. Right? I take a job, and we're going to get directly into this, and I don't ask for my hours. I don't ask for the pay. I don't ask for the benefits. And all of a sudden I'm pissed because they're asking me to work weekends. They're asking me to work overtime. Right? And then they're threatening to get right. So I have to do this. Like people don't want the contract, but it's too good to be true. And those decisions based on self leave me in a position to be hurt. All this inventory is going to show me at least how to do that, so I'm taking a calculated risk. Sometimes you might get a good deal, right? I mean, I buy shit all the time. I'm taking a risk. Sometimes you lose. Anybody else, and then we're going to break. Okay, we're good. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Yes, sir.